You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way. You showed me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day. You cut me loose and set me free. You make me win in every way.
Oh yeah! Hi, how's it going?
Woo! I love that sound.
Me too. Which one? The woo
pop.
or
The pop.
Set me free.
No, you're
Oh.
but I can't reproduce. You can do it because you're
You still
rock
can.
belter.
Samantha Pio is such a liar. Hello, everybody. I hope everyone who's watching, all two of you, for now, are doing very well. We're just going to do our check-ins. Hi, how's it going? Did you have a good week, Sami?
I had a rough week.
Really?
Because of
Okay.
everything that was going around in the world. But, Carmi, you. What was your week like?
It was good. I think it was on Friday. Last week, we explored the concept of life, imitating art, delving into ourselves through creativity, and in the case of Sam and I, exploring that through a character, so in acting, in our jobs. So exploring all the elements of, good and bad of the human experience. And following on from that, on Monday, we then went into art imitating life. So that was, okay, great. So we've accessed the character and relate to other parts of ourselves and other human beings through an experience or through an art, through a story. And now we can empathize with that and even take that on. But now, possibly, what happens when you lose sight of who you are, where you end and the other begins? So what happens when we can no longer separate ourselves from that character or those aspects of the human experience that we've familiarized ourselves with or taken on or come to understand? We went into all of that, and we mentioned how in the context of our lives, Sam and I found that this manifested quite profusely on tours and also on long runs of shows where we take on characters and they become a part of us. And we looked in our exploration exercise on Monday, we talked about coping strategies on tour and how to help with this kind of thing. And then on Wednesday, we had our first Welcome Wednesdays, which is our new slot on a weeknight chat slot. Same time as Monday, Friday, just on a Wednesday. And this is a chat show where we always have a guest. So the format is completely different. We just chat with our guest. And our very first chat guest was the formidable, as you all know who watched, David Dennis. What do you think, Sam?
You know what? That was such an inspiring talk with him. And Combs, what I took away from it in that moment was the fact that he's a master, not only of his craft, but of all sectors of the arts, entertainment sector. He weighed in beautifully about the challenges that we face during this pandemic, and also came up with wanting to find positive solutions, how we could navigate this new normal for the arts.
Yes, and we actually had an amazing chat online, but then once the show ended, we carried on talking for like another half an hour, which was very, very insightful and inspiring.
Definitely. And then that led to our pondering, which was...
Pondering for today.
Yes. Yeah, so Combs, like in that talk afterwards, when we got to spend that good half an hour to even 45 minutes just chatting alone with him, and we moved from the broader sort of conversation within the arts, and we've delved more into the personal exploration and the personal process that he has when it comes to creating a character and that entire problem or fascinating, beautiful
Conundrum.
creative process. Yes. But what struck me was just how very present he is in his mind, body, heart when he does get into that creative process of creating a character, you know. And talking about his process of rehearsals as well, that was fascinating to me, you know, really taking the time to embody the character, not to feel like he has to arrive on the first day of rehearsal knowing everything about the character. I really loved that, because for me, it's always felt a little bit tricky that, you know, you have to arrive on the first day and already have a performance because you feel judged or you feel expected to. And I think like what he weighed in about that was the fact that we are often doing musicals that have a very formulaic strategy, recreating roles, and that's why that is possibly a factor. Whereas he'd had the experience of being able to create characters from scratch. And so that was why his process was informed by that. And that really just was helping me. And you?
Yeah, I think that it was very refreshing for me as quite a systematic person, which is a quality that I've often been criticized for, to kind of find out that he approaches his work, and more importantly, his art, in the same way, in a very systematic way. And that was really, really refreshing for me, and affirming for me, you know, that my process isn't wrong or shouldn't be looked down upon. Because, you know, there are all these stigmas in art, like we artists are XYZ and they're never ABC. And one of those ABCs is artists aren't organized, artists aren't systematic, artists aren't thinkers. And I am all those things. So I sometimes feel like maybe I'm not an artist then. So
totally. And I mean, I think that is such a strange thing to have to contemplate, because there is such tremendous discipline in approaching to be successful in this industry. You need to be organized. You really do. You need to have your ducks in a row, I think. And I also just really love the fact that he spoke about his process of really honoring the piece. You know what I mean? Like really honoring whatever it is that he's approaching, to understand the value of the story, of paying homage to that. And also just like the process of discovering that character and how that character then serves the ultimate story. So it was really, he really expressed the actor as being in service of the piece. And absolutely. I found that fascinating about him, just because he is such a legend, and to still have that mindset that really it's not about him. He's just showing up to be the conduit.
Yes, and he doesn't think about, you know, how can this line glorify me, and how can I make the audience laugh with this line? It's not about that. It's about the story. It's about telling the story. That's what it's about. And I really love that.
Yes, and he said it. He basically went into the whole storytelling thing. You know, we're telling stories. And I think that we as artists and creatives are really storytellers. That's exactly what we are. And if you think about it, it's like to link into the greater human experience. You know, storytelling is historically a timeless way of communicating with others about ourselves, about our history, our culture, our beliefs, our hopes, our dreams. And it's also a way of others to communicate with us. You know, that's the real value. And so, Carmen, I wanted to link it back to our analogy of, you know, art informing life, life informing art. And I have this analogy that I love to access, and it says, Shakespeare said, "All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts." And I think that's really profound, that Shakespeare would have said that as a playwright, that he would have linked the human experience to the drama or the play on stage. So if we can think of our lives as one big play, and we are the writers, directors, and producers of this play, and we are all the leading actors in our own stories. There's this amazing script that writes itself every day, describes our highs and lows, our talents, our gifts that come naturally to us, our desires and goals, what kind of career we'll choose, and the people we will choose to love and be loved by. And the script includes our supporting cast of family, friends, and associates. But we cannot pretend to play ourselves. We have to be ourselves as fully as we can. And if we could approach acting and living in the same way, we would be able to delve into those characters as honestly as we possibly could, the same way we're trying to delve into ourselves, with honesty, with inquiry, so much so that we can create these beautiful textured characters, and we can be fully comfortable in creating those three-dimensional people that we are.
Yeah.
And I just, that's
That is
great.
so beautiful, the way that you've brought in that quote, but then also taken what we've been chatting about and so viscerally put it in context for real life, and not just acting or performers or actors or stage or people who indulge in stagecraft. It's about life, and that's where we kind of link these two worlds together over the last 3 episodes.
Yeah, and I think it's important, and maybe it's not a way that people have thought about it. And as you and I spoke about, musical theatre, you don't generally get the chance to really think of doing that, and yet we want to. I mean, I know you and I are the same. We really want to understand because we're curious about human nature and the human experience. And so when we're delving into a character, I want to understand that character. I want to truly be able to bring myself as fully as possible to the character. And if you have that curiosity of yourself and then the character, it's much more accessible to the audience.
Yes, and it is also very powerful as an exercise to try to relate to every human being in whatever manifestation a person is taking place. And I really find that very difficult, because I'm very empathetic. I can relate to anyone except rapists, except murderers or child abusers or animal abusers are my worst. And then I try and think to myself, I have to not feel hate. I have to not feel anger, because that's not going to be productive, and it's going to end up two wrongs don't make a right. But how, it's very important to start viewing the world through that lens of.
Yes. And you know what, Carmen, I seem to remember Tanya saying something to us in the rehearsal process of Chicago. It's like, it's not our job to judge the character.
Absolutely. And that's like the first thing I ever learned about acting was don't judge the character.
Because what happens if you had to play someone who was a child abuser or a physically abusive mom or whatever the case is? You would have to put the judgment aside and to portray that character as truthfully as you possibly could. And I think,
and to do that, you need to understand how they get there. So it's the journey up to the point where they commit the heinous act or whatever. That's what we need to understand.
Yes, and I think that the whole process requires you to be present in your mind, your body, your heart, so that you can try and access all of that within the character, try and establish what they're thinking in their minds, what their heart, what their feelings are, why would they, why does that inform them, and what their physicality would be as well. It's fascinating. And I think we're so lucky to be artists, because through this process, we get to push ourselves deeper and deeper beyond our comfort zones,
Yeah.
And I think we're just so lucky.
And it is the medium through which we can indulge in this. It's like a safe space to explore these elements of being human that we wouldn't ordinarily really be able to explore or identify with at all. And it's really powerful. That, I remember this one comment. I was playing a character called Tiffany Stain on Esidingo, and she had made a racist comment in the script on the show. And I remember someone messaging me on my Instagram saying, how dare you this? And I'm like, really, guys? I am Carmen Pretorius. I am not Tiffany Stain. I'm an actress. There's a very big difference between myself and the characters that I'm playing. Thank you. B, we have to tell stories that are reminiscent of the times we live in, that are accurate and are depicting things that are happening, because that's where change happens. Because not everyone's going to experience that, but they might watch something on television and experience it through the characters. So that's what we're here for as artists.
Yes, and David actually mentioned exactly the same thing of actually being in, was it Soul City, where he spoke about playing an AIDS patient, having HIV, and just the responsibility of that, the responsibility to honor that character, and then to know that you're actually informing society. It's a huge mantle to carry, a huge responsibility, and that's why you have to approach it as honestly as you possibly can. And he also, what I absolutely loved about the conversation with him afterwards was that he was talking as well, like I say to you, like fully involved in presencing all parts of himself. So the mental exploration of this character, and then the fact that he would go into the emotions of the character, like really break it down. And then it's the movement. And he spoke about how the emotions would inform the movement, or the lack of movement. It's almost like there's complete power in just being still, and that's the presence of being grounded and rooted. And then also he spoke about the final process of the rehearsal process was once you put the costume on, once you put the makeup on, once you put the wig on, if you've got a wig, it's just how your hair is and how that completely is the final kind of sense of, okay, the character's now slotted into place, because this informs everything. How you speak, how you move, what your posture is, and the other thing that I wanted to say was that, we spoke about the fact as well, stage presence. What does stage presence actually mean? Because I know we said this to him, he's so present on stage. And when you watch him, sometimes he's so still, he doesn't look like he's acting. He's so fully present in each moment. But sometimes when you speak about what is stage presence, and it feels really intangible, some people have it or they don't. What is it? It's like this magic that feels almost like the actor is a channel for something flowing through him. Do you know what I mean? In service of, it's like you have to get out of your own way. You have to get out of your ego and allow this character to speak through you. And when you do that, you are literally a channel. And I think that is like presencing some otherworldly quality. And that's the magic. That's the stage presence. Do you know what I mean? It's an energy.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
It's the putting aside of yourself in service of whatever you're trying to communicate, whatever the material is trying to communicate.
Right. And then, And Combs, I just wanted to say, because I know this is important to you as well, like what we touched on with him, and I know you'll weigh in beautifully about this, is that he then spoke about the process of repeating a performance night after night after night. And we asked him, how did he prepare himself to get into the character? And then how did he prepare himself to leave the character night after night? Do you remember?
Yeah. And he said I resonated with this very well. And I think a lot of people that I've watched and observed in musical theatre do the same thing, that their pre-show ritual is very sacred time. And I believe the more pressure you feel, the more sacred, the more protective you become about that pre-show ritual. So if I'm in a show and I'm not feeling much pressure beforehand and I'm jawing with the cast and whatever, then my pre-show ritual can take a back seat. But if I'm feeling a lot of pressure, or I feel a lot of responsibility to delve into the character, or perhaps that delving into the character is a bit tricky, or you need to go through that tunnel, Sammy, you use this, it's like going through like a tunnel and then coming out the other side, then you might become very, very fiercely protective of that pre-show ritual. At half-hour call, I do my lipstick. At And I used to protect my pre-show ritual. I get so upset when people are like, because I wouldn't have my lipstick on for Chicago, but it falls into that. So it's at beginners, that's when I go and do my mic check, and then I put my lipstick on. I don't do it before, because if I do it before, what's going to happen? I'm going to be ready, and then I'm going to forget something, and then I'm going to be late for stage. And it's just all of those things really are important for an actor pre-show. And then afterwards, he mentioned he just like you have to tell the story about
Yes, he spoke
leaving
about
his body.
he very eruditely spoke about the sensation of being in Bernadette, being the character of Bernadette, and
Which is
and standing
in Priscilla.
in Priscilla, and they were bowing, and then the curtain came down, and he was Bernadette, and then the curtain hit the stage, and he sort of felt the moment where she left him. She sort of like disappeared and evaporated into the wings, and suddenly he was himself again. And the feeling of, oh my God, my feet with these high heels, and the weight of like settling back into himself. Do you remember? I found that fascinating.
I've never experienced that myself before.
Me
But I can absolutely identify with that feeling, although that feeling for me always takes place over a couple of minutes, taking off the costume, taking off the makeup, and I'm very quick at doing that. I can't, like, it's this weird thing of like, I want to step out of the character so that I'm done with that character so that I can recharge enough to come back to her. That's why I like, get out, makeup off, clothes off. And then and he spoke about feeling absolutely naked. And I do. I think I feel the ugliest that I have ever felt after I've taken off any show makeup. I feel terrible. I feel almost identityless. It's weird.
That's incredible. And Carmen, the funny thing to me is that, your I'm going to go a little bit esoteric here. Your Taurian nature, one would think that you would like to take your time and really, plot everything with time. And with me as a fire sign, Aries, you would think that I would be like this, quick. And yet I'm the one that goes into the theater hours before. And I need to take that time because I want to feel relaxed. And then afterwards, it takes me ages to take it off again because I hate feeling rushed. And you are able to just get there, take it off and gone. And
so,
I find it fascinating.
It's because I have meticulously worked out my time, that if I take 2 minutes to take my makeup off, then I can be on the bus, and that means I'm home by 1:45, so I can be in the bath by 10:10. Like, I'm not even kidding.
I love you.
So that's why, because I want to be in the bath. I'm working towards bath. Like, I'm going to rush now. I always do this. I play hard and then I work hard. I'm going to rush now and then I'm going to get to the bath and I'm going to be lazy Taurian, lazy bull, lying in the bath doing nothing. Because the quicker I can finish my work, the quicker I can be lazy ass.
But you know what? The funniest thing is that you and I are both stubborn as natures of our charts. And that's your stubbornness. Like, I need to do that. And my stubbornness comes out in like the entire show. I've been told 5-minute call, this minute call, 2 seconds before I get on stage, and then I'm just like, I want to take my time and no one can tell me when I have to and when I shouldn't. So that's my stubbornness.
Yeah. Let's move on to exploration exercise. It's so good to know ourselves, which is why we do exploration exercises. So today, we're going to go back to a proper journaling exercise for anyone, whether you're actor, not actor, artist, not artist. Join in, take your books out. And basically, we're just going to spend a minute now reflecting back on this week, on today, Friday, and the whole week. And we're going to write down a list of things. I would like 10. I think 10 is a good number, but if you can only reach 3 or 4, you can always go back to it after the show, where you feel that you were not present in the moment, in your body or in your life. You were reacting from fear, which means you were looking forward, looking ahead. What do I need to do to prevent this from happening? Fear-based. Or you were looking back, regretting, reminiscing, rehashing, overthinking what I should have done. So you were living in the past. So maybe try and find 10 things that you did this week that you could have anchored yourself in the present moment a little bit better. And that's our exploration exercise. So I'm just going to play the visuals and just spend 30 seconds for everyone at home just to journal and quickly write that down. So remember that this is 10 instances in the past week where you haven't been present. You've either been thinking ahead too much or thinking behind you too much. And often we find ourselves doing this when we are busy with routine tasks. That's the hardest time, I think, to really stay focused. When you're brushing your teeth, or when you're doing your makeup, or brushing your beard, whatever you do. And there we go. So, yeah, feel free to add some more during the week. And that's it for exploration exercise today.
Beautiful. Well done, Carmen. That's stunning.
Thanks.
Let's move now to heart space. So we got a QME, which is great. And this one says, makes such sense. I feel my emotions have been all over the place this week. I feel very triggered by everything. And I think this is why it's important to really continue with these exercises of being centered, of presencing, these exercises of mindfulness, because it is so easy to get pulled off center, especially with what's going on in the world. And it has been a traumatic week. And so, of course, you're going to be triggered by everything that's going on. And part of that is, Coms, we've spoken about how your internal landscape almost affects what you see in the world. You have an impact on your world based on your own internal landscape. But conversely, whatever you're seeing in the world has an impact on you. So you might be creating things in your mind that are subconscious and you don't even realize. So it seems like you're choosing that outcome, but you might not be. Do you know what I mean? It can happen that you have chosen that. But it's quite tricky to actually say, oh my God, there's chaos in the world. I didn't choose that. But it's a collective thing of everybody's internal landscapes that then affect the whole. And so then you get the reflection back. And it's traumatic what you see, especially if you don't like it. So to understand that, it is a two-way process that happens. And for me, it's like detach from Facebook and social media. Try and stay away. If that's what you're feeling, triggered, stay away from everyone else's opinion. Stop the external noise. Go to center, go to presence and say, who am I? Who am I really? What is my center? Because I think right in the center of the cyclone, there's peace right there. And then, it has been really, really traumatic with the events. But to also notice that astrologically, with the lunations that are happening at the moment, sometimes it's not you either. It's very difficult to separate what's my stuff and what's out there. And what's my stuff and what's up there. Everything has an energetic effect on us. And so just to be mindful of that. And that's why it's important. Keep journaling, keep writing, keep tracking. Exactly as you say, when am I not present? Why am I feeling this way? And to really be mindful of that and to try and stay present.
Yeah, and I think it helps to have steps to fall back on. When you need to, I don't know. I always find that if I have a problem, I need to have steps to solve it. So if you are battling, staying in the present moment, if you think like me and if it helps you, then have 2 or 3 things that you immediately employ to get you straight back there, so that it's kind of becomes second nature. I don't even have to think about what I have to do. I just have to do something, and I go back to being the present, whether it's to bite the inside of your cheek, or whether it's to go back to your breath, going back to the breath, which takes a second to do, an inhalation and an exhalation. Whether it's to envision yourself from above, go out of your body, look down. Okay, there she is. Bad hair day and all. And then immediately like roots you back, you know.
Yes, and even rooting you back to the ground. Go walk outside.
Or feeling the ground, yes. Take your shoes off and go walk on grass or even on pavement. But grass is the best, the win-win. Don't walk on the flowers if you can help it. You like me, I'm like
being. I love you.
Anyway, yeah, I love you too. And you're very good at seeing a lot of connections between things, like taking into account energies and, you know, lunar cycles and that kind of thing. Whereas I'm good sometimes, and then when my brain gets too crowded, I'm kind of go back to like, I don't know, can't explain it. It's like I can't stay quite connected properly.
No, but nobody does all the time. I mean, if you were, you would be a guru. But the point is, like, what it does lead to if you're not presencing that all the time is a sense of anxiety. And so to notice when you're feeling anxious, and then to try and say, well, what is me? What's outside of me? Why am I? You know what I mean? The internal exploration is always important.
Yeah, that's it. And on that note, let's go into quote of the day. You know, I don't subscribe to a religion, but I do find that to read scripture, spiritual scripture, is very feeding to me in many ways. So I will read the Bible, I will read the Upanishads, different things. I can't say I read the Quran, but the same thing. And I came across this quote, call it a quote, by Buddha, which, as far as I researched, was actually written, said, or rated by him, we hope. But nevertheless, even
maybe it was Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, you just kind of hope the quotes are actually said by the person who you're quoting. Anyway, here it is. Most humans are never fully present in the now because unconsciously they believe that the next moment must be more important than this one. But then you miss your whole life, which is never not now. And that is so powerful. Thank you, Buddha. If it wasn't you that said that, thank you, whoever put it out there into the ether. But that's it. Like, I keep reminding myself, you know, I have these days where I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't made money in the last month, blah, blah, blah. We're artists. How am I going to pay my bond? And I want a bigger house. Maybe I should become an accountant. And then I think to myself, today is the day that I dreamed of yesterday. Yeah. I have achieved goals today that I dreamed of achieving yesterday. So today is the day I was waiting to be, the day I was waiting to achieve, the things I was dreaming about, waiting to achieve. You know, it's really, really powerful to do that. Yeah. So that's quote of the day.
Beautiful. I love how you always choose such beautiful quotes that really link to the theme. So let's move on now to moments of mindfulness. So on Friday, what day is it today, Carmen?
Today's Friday.
So on Monday, thank you.
And I also had a bit of a...
I don't know what day of the week is. On Monday, we spoke about spiral dynamics and how those psychological levels of development are important in understanding the human experience from a psychological aspect. And so today I wanted to just bring in another sort of modality. And I'm going to be talking about the chakra system. So I'm not sure if anyone has heard about this, and if you have, well, you'll understand. And for beginners, what are the chakras? And I'm just going to read this. It says, the ancient yogis intuited that we all have subtle energy paths and centers all throughout our bodies. And we spoke about this before. These centers are spinning wheels of energy called chakras. Different spiritual paths describe different numbers of chakras and assign them different colors and attributes. So here's a first picture just to give you an idea. Okay, so basically what this is I wanted to speak about what actually it is that you're experiencing in each of these. Now you can see that the colors might correspond to spiral dynamics. And then at a certain point they go, no, that doesn't. That's not how it is. It's almost like, and I'll explain next time how they're actually linked. But first of all, I just want to say, okay, so if we look at the root chakra, that's the very base chakra. So it's where your seat bones are, if you're sitting on a chair or the ground. And the energy center is about self-preservation and survival itself. So that almost links completely to spiral dynamics. You know, we're living. This is part of survival. And to be able to absolutely have these energy centers moving in a healthy way, the need is to say, I am here and I have everything that I need right now in this moment. Okay. The second one is your sacral chakra. It's orange. And the goal is self-gratification. And in order to make that energy center work healthily, the desire is to feel and to create. And to also be in touch with those feeling centers. The third one is your solar plexus chakra. It's about asserting your own self. And it's basically to say, I act, I have power, I have personal power. The heart chakra is green, and that's about self-acceptance. And what we're needing here is to love and be loved. We go then to the throat chakra, and that's where the energy center is self-expression. We want to speak and be understood and be heard. Then we go to purple, which is the third eye chakra. And that really is self-reflection. And that's basically to say, I see. So I see the truth of a situation. And then the crown chakra is self-knowledge. And this is to know and understand. I love that. And then also just talking about creativity. How does this affect us creatively? Seeing as we have been speaking about, creativity, the root chakra is basically saying, I need to create. I have everything that I need in this moment, and I deserve to create and have belief in myself. The second one, the sacral chakra, you're in flow. You find joy in your work and you're expressive. The solar plexus, you bring ideas to life. You act. You are empowered. Your heart chakra, you know what you love and you feel lightness and creative freedom. The throat chakra, you express your truth authentically, strong. You have a strong voice and style. And then the brow chakra is this intuitiveness, imagination. And finally, the crown chakra. You feel connected to a deeper source and a positive outlet and wholeness. And basically from this, what I want to say is this week, if one looks at what has gone on this week, I wanted to liken the chakra systems to the experience and the events that happened this week. So collectively, the energy centers in the collective. And if we think about George Floyd, it's so symbolic, actually, to think that the man was knelt on in his throat area. Basically, what they were doing, if you look at it metaphorically, was choking him in the throat chakra, taking his voice away, shutting him up. If we go to the fact that someone was sitting on his diaphragm, that's your sternum chakra, your sacral chakra. Your, what is it, the third one? Your solar plexus chakra, his diaphragm. They took his personal power away. And then the base chakra, someone was sitting on his lower back. Now the base chakra is literally took his very life from him. I mean, if that doesn't put it into perspective, and what I think is what the world needs right now in this present moment is the opening of a heart chakra. We need to do that within ourselves, and we need to see that collectively, which means the sense that these cops had none of that. Even when mercy was begged for by him, they could not open their heart to be able to give it. And so I think going into this week, if we can pray for the grace to have mercy for ourselves and for the other, and to ask that mercy always be shown to us. That's it.
Wow, that was profoundly beautiful. That was like hit me right in the heart.
That's why I say, I've always had the sense that this man was born into this life purpose. He had no freaking clue. He had no idea actually how deep his life purpose was. And his little girl, seeing her saying, "My dad changed the world."
I know, right? I was about to say, look at that.
I mean, what a sacrifice. And to think that you can say, my lasting legacy, I might have been seen this way. I might have been a reformed criminal, which he was. I might have decided to change my life around. But at the same time, at the end of the day, you never know what your legacy and what your ultimate life purpose is. And for us to be able to say he will always be remembered as being a part of changing the consciousness. I think what a freaking legend, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And on that note, let's go to takeaway. Affirmation for today is as follows. Just sticking with what we're chatting about, I understand that different situations require different senses of being present, and my power always lies in operating from here for my highest good and the highest good of all involved. That is what we should always remember, is that last part. It's not only about us, it's about us and everyone else that is involved.
Yes.
So it might be good for you, your highest good, but is it good for highest good and everyone else?
Exactly. Can't you nailed it?
Yeah. Alive.
And I think that if you even turn it around and say, like, lead me so that, my intention should be for the greater good of all. Because if it is for the greater good of all, it'll naturally be for your own personal greater good. So
Amen.
Think beyond yourself. Yes.
Yes. And so Janice, thank you, Janice, for weighing in. You're right. The whole world should be chakra sensitive, and the chakras are symbolic. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
And Carms, I felt today just being in this very present moment and understanding what is at stake in the world right now, and why we should absolutely embrace transformation within ourselves, because the time is now to do it. And if you've never done self-reflection and you've never gone inside and questioned yourself, now is the time, because there is so much at stake. And so for this week, I ask everyone to absolutely make a radical affirmation of what you've put out there, to make it more of a declaration. I declare this. It feels like a radical claiming of, this is what I need to do. Whatever is good for the greater good, let it be for my greater good as well. And let me be in the very present moment of all of my energy centers working healthily, and may my heart be completely open to all.
Thank you so much, Sammy. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Mwah. Happy voyaging, keep safe, and we will see you on Monday.
You got me loose and set me free. You got me loose. You make me win every way. Win.